My name is Amy. My husband and I, we have an 8-month-old daughter. I found aware parenting when I was in my third trimester. I was really interested in discovering some parenting modalities, and I stumbled across aware parenting, and it just resonated so deeply from day one. So my third trimester, every day I would walk on the beach listening to Marion Rose and her podcast, and I had Anastasia. I read The Emotional Life of Babies and also The Aware Baby by Alita Solter.
Tell me what was going on in your family and with the baby on the time that you decided to connect with me and have a session.
We had developed a breastfeeding control pattern. It was something I'd been concerned about just because as a first-time mom, I just really wanting to make sure he's feels satiated and full and complete, even though my husband and I pretty good about discerning when she was having emotional feelings that needed to be released, healing feelings. What often would happen, she'd have a big evening cry, but then it had been a couple of hours since she'd eaten, so she'd stop crying, and then I'd offer her the breast. I think she still had more feelings to be released. And falling asleep on the breast, this had become not every nap, but she would either cry to sleep or she would breastfeed to sleep. And yeah, I just become more challenging for her to release feelings with me. She mostly releases with my husband, and I know that's a sign too of a breastfeeding control pattern.
So if someone's never heard of aware parenting and they don't know what a breastfeeding control pattern is, how did this impact you?
The breastfeeding control pattern looked like at times her expressing some feelings, but me not being able to distinguish if it was from hunger or needing to release more emotions. And sometimes it's like I would latch her and then it felt like there was more emotions, but then she would latch back on. It was difficult for me to discern. And always erred on the side of giving her the breast. What ends up happening is that she is using my breast to suppress feelings. So as she's getting older, her sleep was going backwards. She was basically sleeping the same as she had been when she was a newborn, which was, if we're lucky, we'd get a 4-hour stretch at the beginning. And then every 2 or 3 hours after that, she'd wake up to feed. Sometimes she'd wake up every 2 hours through the whole night. And a few times she's woken up every hour. It's so hard. Also, what I would notice is if she would wake up and I wouldn't give her the breast, she would start crying. But of course, if you're extremely exhausted, holding space for feelings at 3 in the morning is almost impossible. So it was easier just to give her the breast. And you helped me see that she wasn't really having all the feelings she needs to have during the day. And she has a backlog of feelings from all those times that she breastfed instead of having a healing release.
I'd love to hear, how did her waking up so frequently impact your sleep and your energy level?
I've been functioning at 40% this past week, which I'm already seeing transformation. Thank God. It was like I'm surviving, not thriving for sure. Sometimes I'd wake up and it felt like I hadn't slept at all.
How were you feeling?
Exhausted, desperate, and managing.
So what made you decide to get help?
Meeting you, and I'm an aware parenting instructor face to face who has a story of such success really made me want to see my blind spots and where I was not fully implementing the system, which is so beneficial. Having somebody reflect a mirror so that I could see where my own blockages were blocking me from being fully present with my daughter. Yeah.
And what happened to you in the time that we worked together in this past week?
First, we identified what was happening for me and Anastasia. Then you took me on my own emotional journey to dig up my own fears, my own experience as a child, as a young adult, really getting to the heart of why I wasn't able to draw this boundary and hold the space when I needed to around breastfeeding. I I knew I had my own issues around food, emotional eating, and body dysmorphia, but I thought I had cleared a lot of that energy, but really there was just more layers. And after we had this incredible session that was so profound, The next day, I was able to hold space in a way that I honestly haven't done since I gave birth,
Mm.
and lovingly hold the boundary for my daughter and recognize that she really needed to feel her feelings. And through that process, she has been able to release during the day, which she hasn't done for several months. We had big releases, like half-hour long releases. And then also before bed, instead of her having the breast to fall asleep, I made sure she was fed, and then I lovingly held her, and she had a release, and then she just got so relaxed, fell asleep. She has slept from 5 to 6 hours straight and just had 1 to 2 wakings a night, which is incredible. The other couple nights that she hasn't slept well, it's because we've had big days and we weren't able to hold the space during the day. Every day that we've managed to follow the protocol, I've completely seen the difference, and it's been
Amazing.
amazing.
So happy to hear that. What was a turning point?
The first step is just admitting that there is this problem and not feeling guilt around it, just holding myself in a space of loving tenderness and not judging what had happened up until this point. And I think that was interfering because I almost didn't want to look at it because I was afraid of how much guilt I was going to feel about it. But with the container, it felt so safe to really bring up all this stuff and just really grateful to have this safe space.
So happy that we went there. What happened after that? What's going on with sleep now?
I feel like we're just at the beginning of a new phase and it's really exciting. And I feel like for both her and I to be getting good sleep, it's already such a game changer. And I feel so much more present. I feel like my mothering and the space that I can hold for my family, for my husband, for my daughter. When you're exhausted, just the tiniest thing can send you over the edge. And I just feel this was a really big piece that's been missing from my mothering journey. And I'm extremely excited for what this next chapter brings. And also for Anastasia, too, because it's such a gift for her to be able to even like seeing how much she's already such a aware baby, but even more so in the last week. The number of people who come up to me and just been like, wow, your daughter's amazing. Like she's so present and so happy and joyful. And I'm like, yeah, that's because we really embrace all of her and let her have her feelings.
I think the biggest gift that we can give to our children, truly believe that we can change the world.
I do too. I absolutely believe that this is the work that needs to be done to raise the conscious children that we know have the potential to transform our society, the globe. When I discovered aware parenting and now practicing it and seeing the benefits that are coming, the biggest thing is seeing the light in her eyes. She's just never dissociated. It's like she's just there. I can't speak highly enough about aware parenting and what a difference it makes.
I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you talk about it. I feel the same way. So it's so nice to hear when someone else really gets it and shares the same philosophies. She's so lucky to have you.
And I feel like my husband and I, we've been working with a somatic healer for about 4.5 years now. I introduced to him to my person. And we're having to backtrack and do all the work. But imagine just not having that baggage taken into adulthood.
I'm a somatic practitioner, so I'm making my own job redundant. But not really.
You're holding space for the young generation so that it'll be a totally different world in 20, 30 years when this catches fire. And I just know it is. The results speak for themselves. And we just have to get over that first hurdle of our own blockages. The first week of practicing aware parenting was a newborn, brought up all of my own stuff. And if we're willing to do the work for ourselves, we can offer so much to our children.
So, how do all these things that changed so far have impacted your life, relationship, mood, day to day?
I feel like my husband and I are connecting on a deeper level. I feel the interactions I'm having out in the world are even more present, engaging. My daughter just smiles at every single person. I feel like it's an opportunity to connect with all the people in our community. Honestly, it's been the best since I started aware parenting. The journey has been incredible. Now, having this breakthrough, I feel like the sky's the limit. It just opens up the channel for the light to come through.
I feel
Yeah.
that. And she's only 8.5 months. Just until she starts talking and their cognitive capacity and how my son is at 13 months, it's insane. We're watching this unfold. I'm like, this child is seriously so open, so curious, so engaging. And this is how we're parenting children are. They're just super engaged with the world because they don't have all this glunk and these feelings and this depression getting in the way. They're just like this beaming little light beings.
It's an open channel of sorts.
Yeah, it's the closest you get to source. What were the biggest tangible results? Like 3 to 4 things you experienced during that.
So, the most tangible results that I've experienced are more sleep. My daughter is now releasing feelings with me easier as opposed to only my husband. Also, she is falling asleep faster. Her feeds are spacing out and they're full feeds. It's not just little snacks. She's having, when she feeds, it's a full 10-minute feed, both breasts.
Just like cheering you on because
You get it.
because let's be honest, there's so many moms who practice attachment parenting, and it's so normal in the attachment parenting world to just feed our babies on demand, which can mean every half hour, every hour, and not
Exhausting.
realizing that is one, exhausting. So many women stop breastfeeding at 1.5 because they're just so exhausted by it and it's so demanding on them and not realizing that's actually a newborn's feeding schedule. It's not normal. It's common.
No.
It's happening all the time, but it doesn't have to be that way. And when you actually get your baby to release the feelings that are in the way and the feelings that they're trying to suppress through feeding, yeah, almost like emotional.
Yeah, then she's
Or
happy to just feed every 4 to 5 hours. She's
not even asking.
amazing.
And that way, breastfeeding becomes so much more sustainable because when you only breastfeed once or twice a day and maybe once at night, it's not a
So much
burden.
better.
I
Yeah,
feel like I
it's a
breastfeed till
joy.
like 4. I don't see myself wanting to stop because it's not a burden. It's not how I used to think about it and how I used to feel when it was like
Yeah.
every hour, every half hour, just like,
Grabbing for you. Yeah,
Exactly.
such a big difference.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the moment. But I mean, huge transformations in just a week. I can't wait to see how this progresses further.
How do you feel now when
Empowered, inspired, and rested. I think my favorite part was the gentleness and the lovingness of the container that you had provided and the level of safety that I felt to explore my own feelings. It felt like what I've been creating for my daughter, but having it for myself, which just, yeah, beautiful.
thank you. I'm honored that you let me in and we could
Yeah.
go through?
I didn't feel any judgment, only support.
And what would you say to anyone who's watching or listening who is considering having a session with me?
It'll change your life to do a session or a group of sessions with Nick. If you're considering doing sessions with Nick, I could not more highly recommend. And I know that it will transform the relationship you have with your baby, the relationship you have with yourself, with the rest of your family, with your partner. Just go for it. It's an incredible experience, opportunity, and it is the gift that keeps giving.
Thank you. What would you say to someone who's never considered investing in or receiving support around parenting? People just want to know how to do it themselves. Some have resistance to asking for help because they think they should just know.
So, if you're feeling resistance to receiving help around parenting, what I will say is that most of us didn't receive the parenting that would have served us on the highest level. And so we're actually learning, we're reparenting ourselves, which means that we need support in this process. Like most of us just have not received the parenting that we want to give to our children. And there's no guilt, no shame, no judgment in having somebody else hold that space for us as we reparent ourselves.
So beautifully said.
And I think a lot of us are afraid to gatekeep our parents' parenting and protect that because they did the best that they could. We're doing the best that we can, but we can do even better with modeling that is in alignment with our values. Asking for help is such a humbling experience, but you will receive the answers.
I truly believe that too. It's like when someone wants to learn how to play tennis, they don't think twice about getting a coach, right?
That's
You want to get your kid at tennis, you just hire a coach. But when your child is throwing tantrums all the time and you're losing yourself or you're not sleeping and going into postpartum depression, which happens so often, that is
yeah,
the time to get help. And there's no shame about it. I went and got help and then went down the rabbit hole of becoming an instructor because I just saw the power of this work. So there's really no shame in getting help. I think it's actually more empowering. And who you
yeah.
from would benefit from this work?
My belief is that everybody would benefit from this work.
Truly believe that too. Thank you so much for being here.
Or
And I really appreciate your thoughts. And you're doing so amazing. I just really want to
thank
congratulate
you.
you. But just in such a short time, such a big transformation.
Thank you.
Thank you.